Hello. Hello, everyone. Good to see some familiar faces, some names that I'm seeing on the list. Welcome, John. I kind of recognize that face immediately. Okay, so Divya, well done for coming to these sessions. This is amazing. We are here today for a couple of outputs. One is I'd like you to walk away understanding more about talents, hopefully a little bit about your own talents as you kind of think through what talent means. Second thing is relating that to a team coaching environment. So if you're a coach already and you want to expand your services and go into organizations and work with teams and leaders, then this is a great opportunity. In 2022, ICF created the first ever competency framework for team coaching. They are the biggest coaching association and they are holding the highest standards. Immediately after the competencies, they created what they call the educational standards, which some people are accredited to do that. ICE is accredited to run those programs. If you run that program, you get that certificate and you do your supervision and you do some team coaching engagement, you'll then be able to apply and get the advanced certification for team coaching. So that's equivalent. So if you're an ACC or a PCC or an MCC, this is an advanced certification really to open up an opportunity for you in the space where you're working with organizations and teams. That organization can be a small company to a very big global company. It doesn't matter. They all have teams. So as long as they have teams, they will need team coaches. It's the fastest growing sector of coaching internationally. So if you're in that space, this is a great opportunity for you to learn what team coaching is. And then how can you leverage your team coaching by adding some extra tools? And this extra tool that I'm going to talk to you about today is the talents, identifying what talents you have as a coach, but beyond that, when you're working with teams, what each team member's talents are. How do they link with one another? How does that dynamic work when they're working together? Where do they get into problems and where do they excel because of the way they complement one another? So these are all the things that as a team coach, you'll be addressing in order to help that team increase its productivity, its performance, output, profit, the whole thing, right? Now, right off the bat, I want to just give you a heads up of what, so some people might say, look, I'm a coach already. I can go and coach a team. What is this going to give me in addition? So coaching a team is very different to coaching an individual. And ICF has recognized that. So they've taken the 8 competencies that you all know as coaches, and they've mirrored some team coaching competencies from competency number 1 all the way to number 8. Okay, so they've added more behaviors, more competencies that you can learn. One of the biggest differences between teams and individual coaching is the dynamics. How do these individuals come together to create one unit? So you as a team coach will be coaching one unit. So the first question you might ask is, who is my client? Your client is the team. That team will have a team leader and a number of people that will be reporting directly to that team leader. That's the team that you'll be coaching. Now, the team leader obviously has a different role. They're the team leader. They're probably the one that's gone into conversation with you as a team coach to say, hey, I think my team needs some team coaching. Come and work with us. That team leader is part of that team. So you'll be coaching the team leader probably individually beforehand because that's how you got to know them. It's very likely that's how it'll happen. That's how it most of the time happens for me. And then they'll say, look, this is great. Why don't you come and coach my team as well? Right? So it's a great leverage if you're already coaching team leaders. Great leverage and add addition to your coaching services. So Lots to learn once you dive into the education. But what are we focusing tonight? We're focusing on how can talents impact your team coaching in a way where you will get more productivity, more output, more benefit, more impact out of that team. How will you knowing more about talents be able to add more for you as a team coach over and above the ICF team coaching? How do they come together, right? So I know some of you are in eyes, and they're you're well down the road. Like John is one of them. So you some of this may be a repetition, but repetition is not always a bad thing, right? So as you learn, it kind of goes deeper into your psyche. So let me start by showing you this slide, and I will go on from there, and hopefully we can interact with one another as we go through this. Okay. So here we go. So I'm gonna make this into a slide so you can see. All right. So can everybody see this? Awesome. So I don't need to read this, but this is one of the fundamental truths that if you're an individual and you have been conditioned like I have been as a young adult, I had learned that if I can't do something, then I should go and learn to do it. If a score is low, go and learn so that you can get that score up, so that you can get all the scores up, right? And I strived towards that and failed miserably, simply because I had this belief that I'd learned that I am well-rounded. It means that I can become excellent at everything if I wanted to. If I wanted to become excellent at everything, I could. I don't believe that anymore, because the reality has shown me that I have some unique talents, some dominant talents. My brain has been developed so that it does certain things extremely well. And if I stick at it, I become one of the best at it because of the way my brain is designed, is wired. Whereas other things, I will have to put a lot of investment, and I will get marginally better over time, and it will take a long time. I learned that through the hard way. And then I got introduced to um, Gallup's work and the positive psychology and the research that they've done. And then I learned this truth that there is no such thing as a well-rounded person. Every person has unique, dominant talents that if they invest in them, they will grow faster in them, they will perform better in them, and they will become one of the best in them. So with that truth, I want to invite you all to a little exercise, and I'd like you to participate with me. So here's the context of this exercise. So this is what happened in reality. The data is now being shown. This happened in Nebraska. So it was a training program so that you can increase your speed reading. And the number of people that attended, they were tested to see where they're at already in terms of number of words that can read per minute. So, and they once the result came out, they were put into two groups. The group called slow readers and the group called fast readers, based on the pre-test that was done. So here's the data. The slow readers were reading 85 words per minute. That's pretty good, by the way. 85 words per minute. It's pretty good by my standard, because that's what I do. Now, when I looked at the fast readers, I could not believe it. I mean, that's amazing. This is before the training. This is before training. So they go into a training room and they work over a period of time, and then the training is over, and then the test is done again. So here's your turn. In your chat, please write, what do you think the slow readers went up to? What did the slow readers go up to after the training? What do you think? Let's make this as interactive as possible. I'd love to know what you guys think about what would happen in this scenario. So here we go. We got some numbers: 120, 135, 200, 160, 300, 170, 175, 120, 95, 100, 170, 100. I asked this question of a group, and one person said they reduced. They went below 85 after the training. So I thought that was amusing. But here's what you think, right? So this is what you're thinking. Now let's just see what the actual results were with that group. So the slow readers went up to 134 words per minute. So some of you were pretty damn close. I think there was one person, 135. Yasmin, have you read this research? This is good. So really accurate. So look at that percentage increase. This is someone that wants to go and increase their speed reading for whatever reason that they have. They've gone and invested in some training, and they've gone from 85 words per minute to 134 words per minute, which is a 50% increase. That's pretty good, right? That's a pretty good investment. So what happened to the fast readers? Same question. After the training, what do you reckon? So we got 600, we got 550, we got 350, 550. Mona says they became slower. 400, 350. By the way, Mona, you're not the first one that has thought that in previous examples like this. So when I look at what you guys have written, some of you, like Gitika said, not a shift, they've stayed the same. The majority of you have said that they have improved. And some of you have given some significant improvement. So when I just look at the way you're thinking, so please see what's happening here. So based on what you're answering, I am sitting here looking at it, and then I am entering into your brain of how you are thinking simply by the answer you've given, right? The action you've taken. The majority of you believe that when somebody is a fast reader and they go into training and they invest in themselves, they'll become even faster. And some of you have given some amazingly high percentage of growth. So that's a mindset I'm listening to. It's a mindset that says if you invest in something that you're already good at, you will become even better. And some of you believe you'll become excellent. That's the mindset I'd like you to nurture, because that's where the data shows we have the ability to gain the maximum from the investments we make in what we do. This is what the fast readers ended up going to. That is a 600% increase. I know some of you are saying, wow, I can hear it. And it is a wow. So this is a typical example of what happens when you invest where you have already talent. If you have talent and it's taken you to use that talent to do something, in this particular case, that fast reader group, they took the talent of the way they can read. That means that their ability to read fast, understand, and make sense of it to the point where they can pass that test. So they've taken their talent, they've applied it at something that they want to do, which is fast reading, presumably for the purposes of their job. And that investment, that unit investment, $1, has returned 600%. So if they carry on training and investing, they're going to be at the top class, top level worldwide around being fast readers. And they can apply that at the work or the job or the role that they came to do it at. And they will excel. Their productivity will shoot off the roof. That's what this result is saying. So talents are your natural abilities. Now, let's look at some natural abilities in this room. Can you please raise your hand and if you may, use the raise hand function of Zoom so that so we can all see how many of you would raise a hand that have this, that you write down a list of things to do. That's what you do. How many of you do that? Let's see the raise hands and let's see how many of you come up. So we got a group of just about 40 people, right? And what I'm seeing, just very roughly, is something like 30 to 50%, closer to 50% of you have raised your hands. So please don't lower your hands, just keep them up there for a second. So you're saying that this is what you do naturally. This is without thinking about it, this behavior of making a list, writing down a list, this behavior is a natural recurrence of what you do. That's what you're telling me. Now, if I asked you, how many of you who have raised your hands, please keep them up. Keep raising them up, leave them there. If you go and tick the box after you completed it. So if you don't do that, just remove your raise hand. So you make a list, but how many of you go and consciously tick that box to say I did it? Right. So a large percentage of the people who had their hands up do that. That's another behavior. So this is a category. So this behavior, it starts to tell me what sort of things, what sort of characteristics you have. So let's see how close I am when I am assuming some of these characteristics. For those of you who have your hands up, do you generally like to feel and be busy? So those of you who have your hands up and you have a list, right? Just keep them up if the answer to these questions are yes. If it's not, just lower your hand. You want to keep busy. Those of you who have raised your hands, typically you have high stamina. It means you can keep going, right? Some of you may even keep going late hours of the night, like, because you keep going. You have energy that complements the fact that you are busy. You also have the energy, stamina. You love getting the outcome. You love getting the result. So you're making a list so that you make sure you complete them because you love results. So those hands are still up. I'm guessing that the majority of you had your hands up. These characteristics I'm talking about, you recognize that in yourself. So these are talents that you have. These are talents that you have. These talents in various circumstances have helped you in the past to do certain tasks that others would have kind of started and then left it. They just wouldn't have the stamina to go and complete, whereas you did. So I'm not comparing. What I'm saying is this is one of the things that makes you different. And as a result of you being different, whatever you do, because these are innate, these characteristics are with it. So this is inside your neural pathways, your wiring. So irrespective of what it is that you're doing, whether it's at work or home. So if I asked you, do you also create lists when you're at home as well as when you're at work? Do you also create lists of things to do when you're at home as opposed to the lists that you have to do at work? If the answer is yes, then this is not about work. This is about you. It's about your unique way of thinking, feeling, behaving. And the fact that you take a pen or something and you start making lists, that's a behavior. That comes from the urge to make a list to then go and complete it. And the stamina is the energy and the feeling of moving towards completion that keeps you going. So these are some of the characteristics. So thank you for participating, by the way. I'm going to lower your hands, and then I'm gonna ask for another group. So this is so you may be in this group as well. If you are, please raise your hand. So this next slide is saying, raise your hand if you always seek a familiar face at a big party. Now, it could be instead of a big party, it could be a big event or where there's lots of people. You walk in, there's lots of people, and that's what you do naturally. You naturally seek a familiar face. So for those of you who raised your hands, let me ask you this question. How many of you have extremely close friends where you are trusting one another deeply? So the category of people who put their hands up, that you love creating deep relationships with those people, and the trust that's gained is through the amount of investment of time that you put in building that relationship, because that's important to you. That's just natural to you. So when I'm looking at the raised hands here, so again, some of you are repeating. So you were in the previous category, you're in this category as well. So this is two very different characteristics. The first characteristics was around executing things, doing things. This characteristic is around building relationships. Different. It's a different domain. And those of you who've raised your hand recognize that you have this relationship building domain, a characteristic with you. And it has particular characteristics that's different to other relationship building, like what I just mentioned about deep trust and having a very deep relationship with building trust and deep relationships. Now, we'll come to this in a second. So as a matter of interest, how many of you who've raised your hands are also find themselves that when they go into a large room with lots of people that they don't know? So imagine you've gone into a large room of people and you don't know anyone. How many of you that have raised your hands would still feel strong, where you would want to go and get to know those people you don't know? How many of you would keep your hand up that in a large room, you don't know anyone, and you still have the urge to go in and get to know each one of those people, as many of them as you can, as many of them you want. So you still have the urge to go and do that. Now that's a different characteristic. So you're walking into a room where you have this urge where you can go very quickly and break the ice with someone you don't know and get to know something about that person very quickly and then move on to the next. So when people are really good networkers, you've heard this, you're a real good networker. You go into these people places and you don't know anyone. And, at the end of the day, you got all these business cards or all these contacts you've come out with. That is a particular talent that individual has, because when they put in that circumstance, they have the energy to go and do that. And because they have the energy, the talent creates the energy, by the way. The talent, the feeling is, oh my goodness, lovely. I can go and meet all these new people. That's the feeling. I can't wait to go and see these people. And the action is that you go and start breaking the ice and moving on to the next, moving on to the next. That's your behavior. And you're energized. And you're thinking, I'd love to know a little about this person. And if you are mature, meaning you have built this talent, you've invested in this talent, you're probably thinking, I wonder how I can connect this person to the other person and make an impact, add value. Because if you've been investing in this and you're mature meaning you want to make an impact, you want to be productive, then you're probably thinking that, how can I take what I've learned from this one person? How can I go and help this person connect with someone else that could benefit both people? That's what you'll be doing. And that's what great networkers do. So again, thank you for participating. So last characteristic for today to just see some of the differences. So how many of you, if you raise your hand, how many of you always push that elevator button just to remind that elevator that you are there? Right? You've pressed it once, and then kind of few seconds later, you go and press it again. And sometimes you do this, like you just keep on pressing it like that. Right? I know someone very dear to me that does that all the time. Now that's innate. It's a talent. Now, in that particular case, it's not very productive because it's not actually going to make that elevator move any faster or do anything different, right? So in that particular case, it's an autopilot action, but it's really not doing anything productive. Whereas think about what's actually behind the thinking. So what this person is probably thinking is, let's get on with this. Right, Suzette? Let's get on with this. So you want to move, you want to get going. Now that's a characteristic. Now, if you are in a meeting and that meeting requires a leadership to get it moving to an outcome, and you have that characteristic in that meeting, you're probably going to be very productive to make sure that meeting gets to that outcome quickly. And if you invest in it, that's 600%. If you invest in it, you're going to be pretty amazing at managing those meetings as a team leader. And then that'll be your thing. People will ask you, can you come to this team meeting and manage this, please? Because that's what you do best. Now, that's not the only thing you do best. So think about that. How many things do you do that you feel I'm at my best? I'm going to leave you with that question, right? Because that question, if you start answering it and listing what it is that you do that you feel you're at your best, when you write it down, behind what you write is your talents, right? Your talents are within that. And that's the discovery bit, where as a team coach, you get to know what the different qualities are of the individuals in the room. And if you start asking some of these questions as a team coach, you'll get to know where the driver is. And the driver is that energy, that talent that's driving the show for them. Okay, so what is a talent? Talent is your natural recurring pattern of thought, feeling, or behavior. It's naturally recurring pattern, which means it is subconscious. Your brain has been designed to think this way in a natural way. You don't have to think consciously about it. It's autopilot, and it's a pattern. So if you recognize that you are naturally thinking or feeling or behaving in a certain way, and there's a pattern showing up, there's a talent in there. You need to spot the talent. It doesn't matter if it's not productive and you're pressing that button on the elevator. It doesn't matter. What matters is get to know first what's the talent. Then go and look at what you do and see how you can use that talent to become more productive. And as a team leader, leading a team, I would want to know my team's talents. And the team coach would definitely want to know that to be able to coach that team. So that's why I believe this extra tool within this program, next to the ICF's 8 competencies, gives the coach an edge. And that's what you can do prior to engaging with the team. You can get their reports, you can get their dominant talents, and you can start looking at what it is, preparing, and then going in very strong. So the report you're going to get, if you use the Gallup-Clifton Strength Finder, which is what I use, and this is what I encourage the team coaches to learn. So the theme, the very first characteristics we looked at, where you're writing a list, it's this number 1. The theme is called Achiever. It's got a lot of talents within that Achiever name. And if you read that sentence, you can recognize some of the things I was talking about. Right? That's the kind of generic characteristic of that theme. So Gallup's done a lot of research over the last 50 years, and the research is not just scientific, it's also interview-based. And these 34 themes are what you will learn in the program as a new language. So you'll learn, Achiever has this characteristic. So as a coach, when you're listening, even if you don't have this result, when you're listening to the person talk and you're asking, so this goal you have, so have you ever had a similar goal like this before? Yes. Oh, so how'd you go about it? Oh, I made the first thing I did is I made a list of all the things I need to do, right? And then I diligently went through each list, and I just ground through it. Like I kept going. And as they're talking, you can recognize that there's stamina in there. There's this idea of making a list of the things that they want to complete. And you may even ask them, how did it feel when you completed each one? It was super. It was amazing. Couldn't wait to get to the next one. So those are the kind of things that you'll hear, and you'll know that there are certain characteristics which match this particular theme. Now, why is that important? Because in the program, you learn that each theme has a need, which means that if a team leader has Achiever high up as a dominant theme, that team leader needs to have a team that works diligently and hard with him or her. When somebody's lacking, it bothers the team leader. This is not about, right or wrong. It's just the way they feel. They feel, my goodness, why are you slowing down? Why? Because they're ahead going at 200 miles an hour. And they're expecting their team to come with them because of the stamina they got. It's just a natural way of being. Now, if they're not aware of it as a team leader, they could burn the team down, right? There's burnout if they're not aware of it. So these themes are not necessarily always producing positive results. It depends on how you manage them. So that's why we coach. As coaches, we get to understand how they're applying these themes, and for the self-awareness. You've heard of blind spots. So if the team leader is on a blind spot, that's the way they're thinking, and they're naturally going too fast. Once they're aware of that, they can slow down and make adjustments. And that will just change everything in that team dynamic. So that's the other thing that you will learn to be able to kind of coach them on. Now, you heard me talk about, the relator. The relator was the one where you're going into a big party and you're looking for a familiar face, right? That theme is called relator. It's in the relationship building. The achiever was that making a list, completion. The activator is in the influencing. You influence others to move, to get going. Suzette, let's do it, right? So these themes are naturally divided into 4 domains. So just think about that. Somebody who is into execution, right? Now, you've got a ton of stuff to do. They're the doers. Now, if you've got a team to build and you want to make sure that team is bonding well and there's good connection and there's good trust, you want to be able to use some of the team members who have relationship building to be able to help you do that, because that's where their talents and their abilities are. If you want to get things happening, if you want to take charge and make things happen, there are the influencers. And of course, there are the strategic thinkers, those who will think and strategize, or have a vision, or have new ideas, or have data they could put in, right? So each one of these themes, behind it are a series of talents, like you heard on some of the examples we had. So you're going to learn this, and by learning this, you're going to be, as a team coach, you're going to go to this very fundamental question. So if you want to go to an organization, and let's say that organization's got 10 teams in it, and you go and do a survey, and you find that 5 of them are superior teams and the other 5 are average teams in terms of performance. This one question seems to be one of the biggest and most likely to answer this question of how come 5 of those teams are superior. Because when you ask those individuals in that team, at work, do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? The answer is yes. And the team leader is in charge of making sure that happens. So as team coaches, one of the questions that we want to address is, like, what is it that they do best out of all the stuff that the team leader has given them? And what is it that they don't feel they do best? And for the team leader to be able to recalibrate and see how that team can bond together to be able to use their talents most of the day. Those teams that do that, they focus on talents every day, they're 12.5% greater productivity. And if they receive feedback from their team leaders and others on their talents, they have almost a 9% chance of greater profitability within that team. So these are actual data from research and surveys that were done by Gallup. So up to here, we've discussed talent, right? So you have some idea of what talents are, how they can make us unique by the combination effect of what each one of us hold naturally, right? They're autopilot. It's not something that you can go and learn, right? Please jot this down somewhere. Talents are not learnable, right? At a very young age, our brain gets developed to a point where it pretty much stays. Those dominant talents pretty much stay with us through our lives. Now, our job here is to go and invest on what we have. So this is the philosophy of strength-based development. Focus on what we have, then develop that. If you don't have the talent to do a particular job, I'm not saying ignore it. What I'm saying is manage it. So we're not ignoring things that we can't do, but if we manage those and we minimize what those are in our day-to-day work, then we are likely to be amazing performers because we have jobs to do during the day where we are using what we do best, right? So if you're doing what you do best and you invest in that on a regular basis, you become really good at it. So how does that link in with team coaching? So let's just go and have a look at very quickly on. I'm going to share with you the definition of team coaching. So most of you are coaches, maybe all of you are coaches, I don't know. But if you're a coach, you will recognize some of these words, right? Individual coaching is about partnering, so is team coaching. It's about co-creative and reflective process, whether it's individual or teams. But with a team, you're dealing with a dynamic, you're dealing with its dynamic and its relationships. The dynamics of people working together and the relationship between those people. And the idea is to find ways to inspire them to maximize their abilities and potentials. Now, potential, another word here is talents. Their abilities is, the knowledge and the skills and the experience that they can gain. Put those together, they'll be amazing. Using their talents to do that particular job, and then you invest in their training, on-the-job training or otherwise, skills, and very quickly they'll maximize what they can deliver. And the idea is to reach their common purpose and shared goals. Remember, they're one unit. So you'll be coaching them collectively to be able to do better together. It's the same 8 competencies and the same pillars, the 4 pillars. But underneath this, there are behaviors and skills that are different for the team coaching. So concept, when colleagues understand and appreciate each other's contribution and power, in other words, their talents. If I have a talent, I will have a number of things I can contribute, and that is my power. Now, if people really get to know what I have, and I get to know what they have, and appreciate one another in what we have, then we can identify opportunities to partner and become more successful. So this is very much about partnership between the team members and the team leader, focusing on talent. So before I wrap up and pass on to Puya, I'm gonna do something with you, and I'm just gonna go a little bit more into the talents, and I'm gonna ask you guys to help me out here. So what I'm about to share with you is a little bit more detail about these talents, and then I'm gonna talk about a scenario. So here's the scenario: you've got a team, 2 people working together. One of them has the arranger. Let's just read what this says. One of them has the arranger as their dominant themes, right? The arranger, their contribution and power is that they have a flexibility that complements this ability to organize, right? Arrangers can organize, and they have a flexibility that complements that ability to organize. And they like to determine how all these little pieces come together and what resources can be arranged to maximize productivity. So can you see that this person, because of their natural theme, their natural talent, they're thinking, how can I make this more productive? Can you see that? This is the natural recurring pattern. How can I make this productive, more productive, right? And they are in behavior, they are flexible. You can see they can shift. If a new idea is working better, they will shift very quickly. No problem. Let's do this differently, right? And they love to organize. They love to take whatever resources they have, juggle them, put them together to make it happen. That's what they do. That's their thing. Let's say this person, the arranger, is working with someone who has high discipline, right? So the person in the team, this person has high discipline. So people who have high discipline, they're exceptionally talented and they enjoy routine and structure. And their world is best described by the order that they create. Now, these two are about to start working together. Tell me, what might happen that could get them to veer off, meaning they won't work well as a team? What could happen? What are you noticing between these two? So, quick recap. Arranger is someone who loves to get to organize, and they're flexible, and they'll put all the pieces and resources together to maximize productivity. The discipline loves order. They enjoy routine and structure. Both of them, they both have power, but what are you noticing? Gitika?
Yeah, so arranger says that person also has flexibility, and the disciplined person does not really encourage that kind of flexibility, is what my understanding is. So if there is a new idea or new way of doing anything comes up, the person who is disciplined may not be very comfortable with that arrangement.
Oh my goodness, they won't. They will not enjoy hearing yet another change. Like once they've agreed the structure and they think that it's going to work, they want to stick to that.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody comes and says, hey, I think we should change this because I think the productivity will go up, their first instinct inside of them without thinking, first instinct is no.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that's the conflict. Now, let's just have a look at these two a little bit more. I know some of you have put in the chat and it's along the same idea, right, that we've just heard. So let's just look at, let me end this and let's just look at let's look at this other file. This other file says, okay, every single theme or talent has this thing called balcony or edge. I like to call it edge. It has an edge, meaning it has a power, right? So let's just look at arranger for a second. What's the edge or balcony? You know, what's the power? It's flexible. It's an organizer. It's a juggler. They can juggle things. They're efficient. They conduct things. They align. They realign, right? And they find the most productive configuration possible. I mean, can you think of certain roles and circumstances where you would want someone with that talent absolutely in the team to do that particular task? I can. It's like, oh my God, let's have this guy come in and help us, right? Now, what's the downside? So you call it basement or the challenge. So they lack structure because they're flexible, right? They're always changing. They lack structure. And sometimes they're too flexible, right? They could say, look, that incremental productivity, not worth it. But because they're on autopilot, this is not like if they were mature, they would think through that. But if they haven't invested, they will like for that 1%, they'll go and want to change everything. And that could cause a lot of problems, right? Because they haven't thought it through. They don't follow the existing rules or procedures, right? Can you imagine this person in a normal operating system? Right? They could create chaos if they're not mature and not using it productively. And if they're constantly changing priorities, the team just doesn't know where they are. They're going west one day, they go east the next day. And they may come across as lacking vision because the perception is this guy is just changing his mind all the time. But the reality, the guy's mind is actually being potentially very powerful, but the perception is this guy doesn't know what the hell they're doing. So perception is as important. as you all know, as coaches, right? If somebody has perception, it's their reality. And if the team perceives someone to be a pain, that perception has come through their observation of something. And that's a typical example of arranger versus discipline. Right. One more example, and then I'll pass you on to Priya. So let's look at this. Let's look at these two themes. So we have a team where someone is an activator, Suzette, right? She's in the team, and the activator theme has the power that you can make things happen by turning thoughts into action. And they're often impatient. Let's get going already, right? That's their power. They move things. They move projects forward. They move people forward. And that's their power. That's the activator. Now they're teaming up with someone who has deliberative on their dominant themes. Now, deliberative, the characteristic of this talent is best described by the serious care that they take in making decisions or choices. They have to think through properly before they take action. And they anticipate obstacles. So that what their power is that they see problems potentially coming down the road that others don't. Now, if they're mature, meaning they're experienced in what they're doing, that's super powerful. Can you imagine? That's risk management, right? If they're mature, they have this vision that others can't see, right? And they need time to make that decision. Now, these two are about to get going with each other on a project. What do you see? Where do you see the amazing partnership, and where do you see where it could cause a challenge?
Somebody like that will drive me nuts.
Yeah. So that needs management, right? That very thought comes from your inner natural way of thinking. Like you didn't even have to think about that. It was a feeling that came up immediately. Now, if you don't I mean, you will have a team member that will have certain powers that they seem counter to you, almost like getting in your way. They seem like that. However, if you get to know them and appreciate them, and they get to know you and appreciate what you have, can you imagine a partnership that could really work in a superior way, where they know to let it go and get going at the right time, and you know that if they're saying something, you better hold back and just listen a bit more. Now, if there's trust and if there's understanding and appreciation, that team could be a super powerful team together. But if there isn't, it's exactly what Suzette said. They're gonna be. I mean, I think you can imagine what they're going to be like when they're working together, right? They're going to probably avoid one another most of the time. So this is the power of this tool. It's really going back to the coaching fundamentals of the who. You get to know the who and appreciate the who, and know that the who behind every person is unique. Then invest in getting to know what is the power and allow them time to get to know you. Now that's where team coaching formula comes in, right? You're the designer as a team coach. How are you going to get these people to talk to one another in a different way, to get to know each other and appreciate each other in a different way? All for the purpose of what you came to do, to become a more productive team, to produce more sales or whatever it is that the ultimate bottom line is. But the way to get to the goal is through the who. And this is a tool that will enable that conversation and that appreciation and that change required. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Thank you for listening and participating. I'm going to pass you on to Puya, and then I'll come back for some Q&A and some insights. Thank you, everyone. Puya.
Thanks, everyone. And thank you so much for participating. I love all the interactions in the chat. Before we go back to Taymour for the takeaways and the Q&A, by the way, that's where a lot of the insights are gained in those questions and answers. I just want to share the promotions that are available for those who attended today. And also, we'd love to get your feedback on the event. We always are looking to improve our presentations and programs based on your feedback. So I'm going to put the link to this form in the chat. And if you just, it's just like putting your data and then a couple of, I think 3 yes and no type questions. So if you do that, not only will you give us some valuable feedback, but you will also qualify for an automatic upgrade to the Coaching Business Accelerator when you sign up to a level 1, level 2, bridge to level 2, or team coaching program. If you sign up to the team coaching program, we'll also upgrade the program to include 5 hours of supervision and 1 team coaching engagement, both of which are requirements of the ICF Advanced Certification Team Coaching, but are not usually included in any team coaching program. So we really appreciate that if you could just fill in that short form. That's it. So back to Taymour for the takeaways.
All right. So I'm going to ask you to just think through what you heard. Put yourself in the position of a coach, and just think about what did you learn about you as you were observing and listening to the talents and how talents show up. What did you learn about you? And what did you learn that you could go and do going forward as a coach, whether individual coaching or team coaching? I'd love to hear your insights on that, and then we'll go for Q&A.
I can share.
Sure, yeah.
So through ICF Ignite, I am doing a pro bono on team coaching. So I'm doing a lot of studying on team coaching on my own. And I had the first session last week. And I actually noticed that I use some of these, the things you spoke about, Taymour, today, where they were having this pain that all work is stuck because of one person.
Yeah.
And I think what helped was that because I was a third person in that whole new person, and I created that psychological safety so they could speak about it. And where there was pain at the start, at the end of 90 minutes, they could see that lots is going on behind that person. That person has already contributed a lot, and we can share what she has to deliver. And where it felt like the organization was stuck, there was flow.
Isn't that amazing? You use some critical functions of a team coach. You created safety. You created a space where they felt there's safe enough to do something different compared to before. And now, sometimes that's one of the biggest things that happens when a team coach comes in. The team coach creates the environment for the team to be able to raise their voice and say something that before they just held back for whatever reason. And that's a powerful value add from a coach. Very powerful. Because just for the very fact that the person felt, okay, let me say it. Let me say what I've always wanted to say. That's a huge thing, whether it's individual coaching or group. In group, it's even more a big thing because they're now in an environment where others are listening and there's potential downsides of what they're going to say, right? They're going to take more risk. Whereas in an individual one-on-one, it's more about them, right? It's the security that they feel that they're going to. In a team environment, it's a much bigger thing, especially if you're walking into a team that is not functional. right? They're not trusting one another because of whatever reason. You got work to do there to kind of create that space. That's a great example. Thank you, Divya. Who else wants to share their insights? John?
Yeah, Taymour, thank you. I love the truth. There's no such thing as a well-rounded person. And even the reason why I'm here, again, knowing yourself, I'm a learner. That's one of my top 5. And so I'm learning more. So that really sunk in for me. So now the question really is there no such thing as a well-rounded person? Is there such a thing as a well-rounded team if you're able to look at the team dynamics, understand who they are, and then be able to put the team together? So I just kind of leave it with that thought. Yeah.
Oh, that is just so you hit the nail on the head there, right? It's our job as team coaches is to create that, a well-rounded team, to assist the team leader, because the team leader will have to make some decisions about, is everybody doing what they do best in the roles that they've been distributed to do, right? The decision is internal, but our job is to create that space where they see something new and make some changes. And then, the outcome is, yes, you've got amazing partnership now, and that's where the well-rounded thing comes. Awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely right. Anyone else for shares? Gitika.
Yeah. So, Taimur, what I realized today was that I also had activator talent, which never showed up during my 5 talents that I have on my page. So this was a new thing that I got to know today, and this was with
Awesome.
such a simple example. So my learning is that with very simple things like you asked us to think about, like pressing the button of the lift and things like that. With very simple things, we can actually uh, get the people thinking, even if working in a team structure. Because in a team structure, it is always very difficult to get into the heads of the people. But I think we are like 40 of us were there, and you were able to do that, in a team structure. So that was a great takeaway for me.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's fundamentally goes to basics. So if you look at someone's behavior, as a coach, you're trained to see that behavior behind it is the who. Behavior comes from the way this mind is working. And when it's a pattern, that's the key thing. When that behavior is a repetitive thing, there's talent, right? So you can make this fun by picking all sorts of examples, right? To kind of draw back what these talents are, and then they apply everywhere, right? And in any role, whether you're a mom, your dad, you're a team leader, they're there, right? Because it's what we carry with us in our brain design.
Yeah.
So awesome. Thank you, Gitika. So I'm seeing some questions come through, but before we go to the questions, I just want to make sure if everybody has the chance to share insights. Is there any other person wants to share their insight? So let's dive into the Q&A. Puya, help me out if there's
Okay, so
if there are questions.
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Shimpi is asking, is there any particular sector where team coaching is most most appreciated, sorry, and what's your experience?
When you say sector, do you mean in from a business? Like which sector in the business?
Maybe industry would make more sense, like IT or
Ah,
hospitality or
right. Okay, the great question. So let's go back to basics. Team coaching in itself is about team coaches helping a unit, a team, to create something more than they would have done otherwise, right? So this is by maximizing who they are and their potential. That's what the aim of team coaching is. The talent base is about how you can bring the who into it So by knowing the potential, you can get to that outcome, right? So anywhere that you have a team, any sector, any organization, whether it's a small, medium, large organization, in whichever country, whichever culture, anytime you have more than one person working together, it becomes a team. And in that team, there is always an opportunity to grow based on what we talked about today. So there's no one sector that I know of that is benefiting more from team coaching than any other sector. As I said before, team coaching is the fastest growing coaching, if you like, what would we call it? Function that is out there, right? It's new. Organizations are seeing the bottom line impact, the profitability, the lower absenteeism, all sorts of indicators. So they're prepared to invest in team coaches because of that impact, right? So Shimpi, I think it's really is broad, and it's demonstrating with the data I've seen that it's pretty much international, and it really doesn't matter what size and what sector.
Okay, thank you, Taymour.
You're welcome. By the way, that question also has elements that you might want to think about. Culturally, where is coaching more accepted? Right. So over the years, it started with the US, it came to Europe, Japan, Australia, they're the big ones. And then now Africa, Middle East, South America, it's growing fast across cultures. So there's something quite unique happening, where as soon as people are finding out what coaching actually is, they're more receptive to it, because it's not about fixing anything, right? So people are more perceptive to say, okay, come and talk to me, because I haven't done it, I'm not wrong, or I'm not, broken. I am great. I am healthy. And I want to be even better. That's inviting all sorts of cultures to come in to coaching and embrace it. And therefore, organizations, especially these days, multicultural teams, virtual, not virtual, it's a big opportunity because of all the dilemmas around multicultural and virtual, not virtual, all that stuff that it causes challenges for team leaders. So great question, Shimpi. Any other questions? Anything in the chat, Puya?
No, I don't see any yet.
I have
Feel free.
I'm sorry, Puya. I just have
Go ahead.
follow-up question on that, Taymour.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between coaching a team who is, let's say, in terms of IT, a development team versus executive team, like head of department? Is the team coaching approach different for these two different kinds of team?
Yeah, great. Another great question. So, when you go through a team coaching program, ICF says if you want to become a team coach and get credentialed, you got to have at least an ACC, meaning that you've gone through this foundational one-on-one coaching and you've learned what coaching is, and you're able to deliver coaching. So ICF, in the way they've designed their standards, what they're focusing on is, can you coach? So the competencies is all about, can you coach and at what level, right? Now, what naturally happens next is we're all different and we all have different backgrounds, and we have a different desire to go and work with different groups of people. So, for example, I came from an international global company from a leadership position, and I was drawn naturally to go into leadership coaching. So I wanted to work with those team leaders and high decision makers. And when I started my team coaching, I naturally went that way too, right? Because that's where my thing is, right? That's where my energy goes. And the energy goes there because I also carry a lot of experience and I get them. I know what they're going through. I've gone through it myself. I know the dilemmas. I know what their needs are, at least some of them. So that's what I chose as my specialization. So all of us graduate from a coaching school and we know how to coach. The next decision is, who do you want to coach? So Shimpi, when you decide, look, I want to coach, IT operational team, because that's where I come from. I know what these guys are going through, and I know what I can do as a team coach for them, and I want to be actually interacting with them because I enjoy, I enjoy that company. I don't want to be working with senior leaders, right? You can hear yourself talking about this, right? Because of where your energy is going. That's where you choose your specialization. And that's where you start veering about your marketing and who you select and basically deciding who your ideal clients are, right? And everything then follows. So there is no difference to me coaching. If I was asked to come from the senior leaders and coach the IT team, what I do in terms of team coaching will be the same. But I will have a disadvantage versus you if you come from that background, is that your empathy with them, your experience, where they come from, how what their needs are, you'll get there much quicker. I'll get there eventually, but you'll get there much quicker. And if I don't feel like that crowd is my ideal crowd, I won't be my best either. Right? That's the other factor to bear in mind. So basics, same. But what you decide to do afterwards, it's very much where you come from. It's very much about your energy. It's really nothing to do with ICF competencies at all.
Thank you very much. That answers the
Yeah, you're welcome.
Divya has a question.
So, Taymour, my question was something else, but I was listening to the answer. And I understand where you come from and you go in that area, you have a better understanding, and that can be used for marketing. But I also wonder, when people are coming from that background, in coaching, we are looking at new perspectives. So somebody coming from from that background has that conditioning, they understand it very well. And I sometimes feel that when people don't understand, they can really go deep as well. What's your experience like?
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, ICF has this thing that they say, we don't advise you to go and coach very close friends and family, right? And I'm saying this, there is a link to what you asked, believe me. So why do they say that? They say that because if I go and coach, let's say my sister, I have such deep conditioning around who I think she is and what's right and what's wrong and the values, that it could impact my objectivity as a coach. And as soon as I notice that that's going to happen, I should step out and ask my sister to be coached by somebody else. So typically ICF says, just don't go there. Just find another coach and get that coach to work with your sister. So that's different to me knowing what senior executives have to deal with in running a company. That's coming from me having more empathy, more understanding of their needs. And if they come in and say, look, we've got this major challenge and such is happening, right? First, like good coaches we get to understand and support and relate, right? So if I come from that background, I'm going to be very quick at empathizing and understanding. The next step is where what you're referring to, Divya, is where I am being objective as a team coach or an individual coach around what is really coming from the individual. Like, who is this team leader that is having this problem? Now, that is my curiosity and a completely new, fresh, it's a blank piece of paper. So I'm now delving into, what makes you be in this situation versus somebody else who's not. What's happening here in terms of the way you're thinking? Now, if I have their talent reports, I'll have some clues, right? I'll have some clues in terms of what they naturally are thinking. And if you remember the basement and the balcony, now, if I'm listening to them and they're saying, oh, my team is just slow, they just can't follow me, and I know that Achiever is their number one, that's going to give me clues to be able to catalyze the team coaching. So the one thing about the strength-based report is for you as a coach to be careful not to start labeling and not to start putting, just because this person's got Achiever as number one, therefore that's what they are. No, the idea is to get some clues to get into the conversation of curiosity and applying the coaching competencies. So to answer your question, if I'm going to coach people that I know in a team, I would rather get somebody else to do it because there'll be lots of baggage there, right? It's more difficult for me to be objective. But if I'm going to coach a team that I don't know, but I know where they come from, I know what their needs are, I know because I've been in that position, that's potentially accelerates me getting to understand, building trust, and moving to this stage of understanding what's causing the challenges, right? So I still have to be objective. I still have to be non-judgmental, right? So that's all part of my training to be able to keep that, right? So for you, if you're going to go and coach some teams that come from your background, if you're going in there with an assumption that I know what you're doing and this is what you need to do, you've gone down that slippery road because you're now not coaching, you are now heading the consulting or mentoring,
Sure.
right? So it's keeping the coaching mindset, but taking the advantage of the data that you have to catalyze and improve the impact you're going to make as a coach.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
But if I can just go with it came because you said, and I had an original question.
Oh, okay, go on.
And that original question was like, I am from IT and I have all the family in IT, and I see they have all these pressures with, project delivery, and it's booming as well. So because tech is doing so well and they have so many projects, every time I speak to people in IT, they have not had coaching or team coaching because they are so filled with their projects. So how do one make a space or build a case that this will help?
Yeah, great question. So just go back to your one-on-one coaching for a second. Have you guys had experience where your clients not coming to coaching because they're too busy, they don't have the time, right? And yet they know that they've hit a ceiling. They know they need some change, and yet they say, I don't have enough time. It's that old issue, right? It's the dilemma, paradox even. So as coaches, when we get into conversation, we have to remind them and then demonstrate that that is possible. So for example, one of my very, very first coaching clients was someone who was a senior executive, and they were extremely busy. And what they found was they didn't have enough time to get all the projects they had on their hands delivered productively as they want. That's one of my first clients. And I made an offer to them that they couldn't refuse from a perspective of the investment they're going to make. So I gave them I said, here's my package. Come for 2 sessions. It's 2 1-hour sessions, and it's 2 weeks in between. So you got 2 weeks in between it to do whatever you need to do in terms of what you've learned, right? If you come and after 2 sessions, you say, I'm not going to do this, then that's okay. But if you notice that actually you're going to save time, those 2 hours is going to save you time, then we carry on, and this is what you're going to pay to my bank account, and that's the package. And we agreed. And that client was with me for 3 years, different topics, but we worked together. So you have to make it work. It's the part about business development that's different to coaching, right? It's how you're going to approach them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really helpful with the example as well. Thank you so much, Taymour.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone. It's been a joy working with you. Stay well.
You too.
Thanks again.
Bye.